What if I told you there was a man in the Bible who made a promise to God and then immediately regretted it for the rest of his life? A promise so terrible that it would cost him the thing he loved most in this world. His name was Jephthah, and he made a vow that would haunt him forever. This is one of the most heartbreaking stories in the entire Bible, and it raises questions that will shake you to your core. Warning: this story doesn't have a happy ending, but it has lessons that could change how you think about faith, promises, and the cost of victory. We're going back 3,000 years to one of the darkest periods in Israel's history. The Book of Judges tells us this was a time when everyone did what was right in their own eyes. No king, no central government, just chaos. And in this chaos, Israel's enemies were crushing them. The Ammonites had been oppressing Israel for 18 years, and the people were desperate. In their desperation, they cried out to God, but God's response was shocking. "Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them save you when you are in trouble." But then, God's heart was moved by Israel's misery, and he was about to use the most unlikely person to deliver them. Meet Jephthah. His story begins with rejection and shame. Judges 11:1-2 tells us he was a mighty warrior, but there was one problem. He was the son of a prostitute. His father Gilead was a respectable man, but Jephthah's mother wasn't his wife. And when Gilead's legitimate sons grew up, they drove Jephthah away. "You are not going to get any inheritance in our family," they said, "because you are the son of another woman." So Jephthah fled to a land called Tob, where he became the leader of a group of scoundrels. Basically, he became the head of a gang of outlaws. Picture this: the illegitimate son, rejected by his family, living in exile, leading a band of rebels. This is not the resume you'd expect for God's chosen deliverer. But then, 18 years later, the Ammonites attacked Israel with such force that the elders of Gilead panicked. They had tried everything else, and now they were desperate. So they went to the one person they knew could fight, the brother they had rejected, the outcast they had banished. The same men who had driven Jephthah away now came begging, "Come and be our commander, so we can fight the Ammonites." But Jephthah wasn't stupid. He said, "Didn't you hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why do you come to me now when you're in trouble?" Eventually, they made him a deal he couldn't refuse. "Be our commander, and if you win, you'll become our permanent leader." Now, here's where the story takes a tragic turn. Jephthah was about to go into battle against overwhelming odds. The Ammonites had superior numbers, better weapons, and years of military success. So Jephthah did what many people do when they're desperate. He tried to bargain with God. Judges 11:30-31 records his exact words. "If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Do you understand what just happened? Jephthah just promised to sacrifice the first thing that came out of his house as a burnt offering to God. Now, in ancient Israel, burnt offerings were serious business. They were completely consumed by fire. There was no taking it back. The battle was a complete victory. Judges 11:33 says Jephthah devastated 20 towns, and Israel subdued Ammon. It was exactly what he had prayed for. So Jephthah returned home, probably planning his victory celebration, maybe thinking about how a goat or sheep would come out first. But then, Judges 11:34 says, "When Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing to the sound of timbrels? She was an only child." His daughter, his only child, dancing with joy to celebrate her father's victory. She was probably around 12 to 15 years old, full of life and excitement. The text says, "When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, 'Oh no, my daughter, you have brought me down and I am devastated. I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break.'" But here's what's absolutely incredible about this story. Listen to his daughter's response. "My father, if you have given your word to the Lord, do to me just as you promised, now that the Lord has avenged you of your enemies." This young girl, facing unimaginable terror, shows more faith and courage than most adults ever will. She doesn't blame her father. She doesn't try to escape. She honors his vow to God. She makes only one request: "Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends, because I will never marry." For 2 months, she and her friends went into the mountains to mourn, not just her death, but the fact that she would never experience marriage, never have children, never see her family line continue. Judges 11:39 simply states, "After the 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed." The text doesn't give us details, and maybe that's a mercy. Some scholars debate whether Jephthah actually sacrificed her or dedicated her to lifelong service at the tabernacle. But the text seems clear. He fulfilled his vow, and she died a virgin, never knowing marriage or motherhood. And because of this, the young women of Israel established a yearly custom to commemorate Jephthah's daughter for 4 days each year. This tragic story teaches us several crucial lessons. First, be extremely careful what you promise God. Jephthah made a rash vow in desperation, and it cost him everything he held dear. Ecclesiastes 5:5 says, "It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it." Second, God doesn't need our bargaining. Jephthah thought he had to make a deal with God to win the battle, but God had already decided to deliver Israel. Our desperate promises don't manipulate God. Third, sometimes our victories come at a terrible cost. Jephthah got everything he wanted: victory, leadership, respect. But he lost what mattered most: his daughter. This story raises difficult questions that don't have easy answers. Why didn't God stop Jephthah from making this vow? Why didn't an angel intervene like with Abraham and Isaac? Why does the Bible record this without explicit condemnation? Maybe the answer is that God allows us to make our own choices, even terrible ones. Maybe this story is here as a warning about the danger of rash promises and desperate bargains. Here's what this means for us today. Don't make promises to God that you can't keep. Don't try to bargain with Him when you're desperate. And remember, God's love for you isn't conditional on your promises. Jephthah's story is one of the most tragic in the Bible. A man who achieved everything he wanted, but lost everything that mattered. A daughter who showed incredible faith in the face of unimaginable circumstances. This story challenges us to think deeply about our relationship with God. Are we trying to bargain with Him? Are we making promises we can't keep? Are we putting conditions on our faith? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. How do you process this difficult story? What lessons do you take from Jephthah's tragedy? And if you're wrestling with these deep biblical questions, you're going to want to see next week's episode. We're diving into the shocking story of Tamar, the woman who outsmarted Judah and changed the course of history. It's a story of justice, deception, and redemption that will blow your mind. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. These stories aren't easy, but they're real. They're in God's Word, and they have lessons that can change our lives. Until next time, remember that God's grace is bigger than our worst mistakes, and His love doesn't depend on our perfect promises.